What's up, y'all? My name is Labria Jones, also known as the Remote Work Queen, and I share information, inspiration, and support to help people find and land remote jobs. I am also really big on life-work balance because the living part comes first. And most of the things I share here are with the goal of helping you make sure the living part comes first. And today is no exception. I'm going to talk to you today about a really cool career that you can transition into called instructional design. Before we get there, I want to let you know I have a free guide called The Ultimate Guide to Remote Work. There's a link in the description box. Additionally, I have a course called the Remote Ready Bundle that guides you through the 4 phases of finding and landing remote work. And I have a community, a coaching community, where I share loads of information on finding and landing remote work. And actually, all of the information I share across platforms are right there as well. It's free, or you can get upgraded access to get even more access to me, access to other experts as well. So all of that you can check out in the description box. But today is all about my girl, Jill. Jill, introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, and tell us what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad to be here. My name is Jill Davidian, and I am the founder of Learning Strategy and Design. And what we do is we create learning solutions for companies. And so I've been doing that for about 20 years. And about 3 years ago, I decided to start helping other people get into this field. So I started a program called Applied Instructional Design Academy. And so we'll tell you a little bit about what this field actually is, but it's something that I've really enjoyed doing for the last 20 years.
I love it. I love that you've done this because, Jill, you're literally changing people's lives. It's ridiculous when I hear some of the testimonials. And I even ran into someone over the weekend that's taking your course, and she literally stopped me, accosted me at the bar while I was reaching for my drink. I couldn't even get my drink without her getting this out. She was like, you know something, Libria, I'm so glad that you introduced me to Jill. I'm taking her course, and this is life-changing, completely life-changing. So can you tell us really quickly 2 things? 1, how many people have you helped transition into instructional design?
It's over 500 at this point.
Over 500 people. Over 500 people in the last 3 years. I'm so glad that you didn't sit on this. I'm so glad that you decided to get out there, put the information out there, and help people not only transition into this career, but just even know that it exists. Because a lot of people don't even know it exists, right?
Right.
So tell the folks, what is instructional design? What does an instructional designer do?
Yeah, so instructional design is literally designing learning for adults. So mostly in a corporate setting. And so the easiest way I can describe it, because a lot of people are like, still, what is that? So think about training that you've taken. Every single person, probably in the entire world, taking training at some point at a job. And so if you think about training that's online training, you might have been sitting in a classroom at one point, but not anymore, mostly. You've probably taken online training where you click through the screens, you took a quiz at the end, you might have heard it called e-learning. Those trainings usually, not always, are created by instructional designers. And so sometimes people, whenever I tell people that, they're say, oh, that horrible stuff, you're the one who creates those horrible trainings, right? Because there's a lot of bad training out there, a lot. A lot of times that is a training that was not created by instructional designers because somebody who knew the subject really well, if you're really good at your job, they're like, hey, can you go train these people and can you go create this? And then it doesn't really work that well because just because you know something doesn't mean you can deliver it to an audience. Like a professor in a college setting who super smart, published all these books, but then his students are asleep at the end of he doesn't know how to deliver the material. So that's what we do as instructional designers. We're kind of like the middleman, the liaison between between the person who knows it and the person who needs it. And how do we get the message to them in a way that actually is engaging, that they will do something with it, that it actually makes a difference? So that's what we do, and we mostly do it in a corporate setting. So whenever, say, Bank of America needs to train their employees, or Honeywell or whatever company, they hire instructional designers to help deliver that training.
I love it. Okay. So you guys know what instructional design is now, right? And you know that Jill is the GOAT, the greatest of all time at getting people transitioned into this career. So I asked Jill to stop by and join me on the YouTubes today to share with me her top 5 reasons why you should consider a career in instructional design. So I think we should get into that. Jill,
Sure. Yeah,
what's
absolutely.
number 1? What's your number 1 reason? And these aren't in order of importance necessarily, but what's the first reason you have as to why people should get into instructional design?
So my first reason is that it is really varied in the work that you do, so you're never going to get bored. literally every company in the world trains people in some form. So if you think about IT training, like systems are constantly being updated. You think about new hire training, you think about process and procedure, maybe like a company selling a new product, they have to train their employees on that product, just how to do your job in general, leadership training. Like there's so many different types of training and every company does it. And so as instructional designers, we are not the experts at the material that we're training. We work with people who are experts at that. We're experts at learning. So you could work at a bank, then you could go work for a healthcare company, then you could go work for the government. You can do all these different things, and within your career, you're not stuck because it's such a wide and varied career. And I think that's really cool because and even within the job, you're doing different things as well because you're on different projects.
Yeah.
Even within one company, creating training for different departments within the company.
Yeah.
So you never get bored.
I like that. I love the idea of, because in my career as well, like I love being able to work in different industries and solve different problems. And a lot of times, like the way you solve the problems may be the same, but the problems are different, right? And getting your foot in the door in multiple industries is actually really, really cool. So I actually love this one. I love this call out that, you know, hey, you're doing instructional design, but you're doing it like across the board, across industries. You could wake up one day and do it for a banking client, or you could wake up another day and actually do it for a literal education client. Like who knows what tomorrow brings.
Yes.
Hit me with number two. What's your number two reason why?
Okay, so number two is it is a perfect time to get into this field because the demand is super high and the supply is low, and I'll explain why. So on the demand side, this field is in 2020, e-learning was a $250 billion industry, and it's supposed to grow to $1 trillion in 2026. So a lot of demand right now. Part of the reason for that is technology. Technology is changing. We can do things online now that we couldn't do. And when you could train people in a classroom, somebody, maybe the expert at whatever it was, could stand up in front of the room and pretty easily, it may not have been great, but they could deliver some training. Because most training is now online, you can reach more people. You don't have to fly everybody to a location to get in a classroom. Specialized tools are needed, and not everyone knows how to use those tools. So they're having to hire more instructional designers now to do it. And then of course, COVID accelerated that with everything going online and people scrambling that were like left over trying to train people in the classroom. They were like scrambling. And so there's just so much demand for online training that you can't just have the expert do. You have to have somebody who is really good at learning and the tools and all those kinds of things come in and do it. So it's constantly growing. And on the flip side, there's something really interesting happening right now in the field because, you know, a lot of times anybody that's career transitioning is sometimes scared to get into a new field, right? Because you're like, I don't know anything. You know, it's one thing if you're like 22, right? It's like if you're out of college, like everybody doesn't know anything. But when you're like an adult and you've been in a career for a while, that's kind of intimidating to be like the new kid on the block again. And so what's happening right now is that a lot of people who have been in this field for a really long time are falling out of the market because they're not keeping up with their skills. This did not used to be a tech heavy, and when I say tech, I don't mean coding, I don't mean anything complicated, but just using technology. We didn't really use that back, 20 years ago. They're not keeping up.
Yeah.
So they're falling out. They're coming to me saying, I've been in this field as long as you and I can't get work. Why not? People aren't hiring them anymore, or they're so far ahead that you're not competing for the same jobs. They're asking for way more money and that you can get there, but obviously not starting out. And so they're on a whole different level. You're not competing for the same thing. So there's a lot of jobs where companies can't pay that much. So they want newer, fresher people, fresher ideas, all those kinds of things. So that demand is really high and you don't have to compete with all those people. Half of them aren't even there anymore. Yeah. And it's an interesting thing because I actually talk to hiring managers all the time and they say, oh, I have 300 new people that applied for this job, but a lot of them are, we'll talk a little later, but they're not prepared for what they need to actually do. They're just kind of applying cold. But there's nobody who has done this previously, like literally nobody. So they're just they're really falling out of the market, and it's a lot of new people. And we'll talk about how you kind of get prepared for that later. So
you said a couple of things that I just kind of want to expand on as well, right? So one, high demand. Guys, if you check out the YouTube video I did previously that says the top positions in 2022, I definitely highlighted this position, instructional design. I highlighted this position because I knew this was a hot job for 2022, and it has been hot for a while. And to Jill's point, it will be hot for a while longer. So get in while it's hot. The second thing is, I know when we mention tech, people immediately get afraid. So I just want to hit on this one more time. You clarified, but I also want to add some additional color to that. I think what she means is new tools keep coming up, right? New tools keep coming out to do this work. And if someone's been in this field for 20, 25 years, they've gotten used to using the tools they were using 20, 25 years ago, and they're not
or no tools.
Or no tools, and not exploring new things. For example, for a project manager, Microsoft Project used to be the thing that all project managers used years ago. Now you got Asana, you got Trello, you got Notion, you got ClickUp, you got Airtable, you got Monday, you got millions of things and millions of tools available, or thousands of tools available. And if you're still stuck on MS Project, like, you're probably not as marketable as someone who's new, who's, you know, getting used to and acclimated with all these tools, and who can easily transition to multiple tools and methodologies as well. And so I think, to your point, folks that have been in the industry for a long time have rested on their laurels. And they're not as agile and nimble as someone who's young and hungry and who's been, you know, exposed to some of the new tools. And then additionally, I think her point is also people that have been in the industry for a long time, they're demanding super high rates, right? And meanwhile, you know, someone new in this industry, they can maximize their budgets by focusing on you guys. I think that's a really great point. And I love that what you're doing is you're like pulling back the curtain on how employers are thinking about this too, so people really, really get it. All right, hit me with number 3. What's your third reason?
So the third one is that you do not need another degree. So if you've already gotten a degree in whatever it is that you've been doing, because this is a second career for pretty much everybody. That's another thing that's really cool about this, is pretty much nobody enters this as a first career. So when you enter this, like, you're kind of on that level playing field of everybody that's doing this as a second career. And so a lot of times people you may already have a master's degree in something else. You may not have a master's degree. You don't need one at all. But either way, who wants to go back to school? Like,
I sure the hell don't. It's expensive, first of all. And I know a lot of people are assuming that, right? Like, I don't have a degree in this. You don't need a degree in this field, is what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing.
Right. You do not need a degree in this field. Yeah. And so I always say, I really like people to have a degree in something, a bachelor's degree in something, just because I think a lot of times, this is really not specific to instructional design. I just feel like in working in corporate America, what I've seen and talking to hiring managers, they kind of cut down those they have to find some way to cut down applications. And sometimes that's the criteria. And it's the yes or no. It's not what is it in, it's yes or no, you know. So I always say, there's people that have gotten in that don't have a bachelor's, but I always say it's great to have at least a bachelor's in something. You can't even get a bachelor's in instructional design, it doesn't exist. You can get a master's, it does exist, but I will say that not only is it not needed, but it actually doesn't prepare you well. There's other ways to really get prepared for this career where you're a lot more marketable to hiring managers that are way less expensive and take way less time. And so you don't have to do that. Like, that's really cool. I mean, not a lot of careers you can transition into where you don't need that.
No, I agree. I mean, not a lot of careers at this level too. Like, when we'll get to the pay stuff, but when I hear like the salaries that people are making in this career, it's very, very, very fortunate that this is a career that doesn't require a degree in the field. I love that. So if you were sitting here watching this, like, I can't do it, bro, I'm not going back to school. You don't have to. You don't have to. You don't need another degree. If you've got a bachelor's degree, you're good to go. If you don't, I'd say, again, you can try. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. But I think what Jill is pointing out is that it's going to be a little bit easier for you if you have at least a bachelor's degree in something. Yeah. It could be a bachelor's degree in like making cat shirts.
Right. Yeah. And we really truly have people, like, people will say, well, I'm a nurse. Can I get into this? I'm an accountant. Can I get into this? We literally have people from every field that come into this.
You stole my bonus reason. That was my bonus reason.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good. No, but this is really valid. Like, people need to know there's not a specific background you have to come from either.
Yeah. And a lot of times people, it's like at some point in your career, you've done some kind of training, right? So something you've done that where you train somebody, like you can pull, sometimes you got to dig a little deep, but you can pull something you've done because training is just everywhere. Like it literally is everywhere. So, those are the kinds of things you can pull from your background, no matter what your job was. So
I love it.
sorry, I stole your bonus reason, but yeah.
I feel like every time we have this conversation, because this is maybe the fourth time we've talked about this, because we're both really, really passionate about helping people unlock and giving them freedom and in upgrading their lives. But every time we talk about this, I'm like tempted to change my own career. Like, who should I be doing this to?
I had one more thing I wanted to add too.
Oh, go ahead.
Is that, so, you don't need another degree, you come from any field. And one of the cool things about getting into this field is that in order to get into this field, you need something called a portfolio. Now, the cool thing about this is that you have the ability to showcase what you can do, and it's a standard in the field. So it takes some work to create one, and that's kind of the work that you do put in, because even though you don't need another degree, it's not a matter of, oh, I'm just going to apply cold. There's preparation that needs to go on. And that's kind of what I was talking earlier about. There are people who are applying and not doing the prep work that they need to. There is some prep work, not a degree, but there is some, and a lot less than what you would do if you went back to school. But that prep work actually creates an asset that you can show them what you can do, even though you don't have the experience. So say you want to change careers and become a nurse. You go back to school, you get out of school, you have an interview to become a nurse. All you can do is answer the questions, and they can hope that you can actually do nursing. How are you going to, unless they put you on the job for a day, how are they going to know if you actually know what you're talking about? They don't know. Your portfolio, and I always tell anyone I work with, shove it in front of them, put it in front of them, because that is your secret weapon to show what you can do. And we have the privilege of being able to do that, whereas a lot of fields, you just can't. Like, you have to hope that they just take a chance and bring you on.
Yeah, that's really true. I like that. I love that. So what I'm hearing is it's almost like where an artist or a creative has an advantage, right? Where when you go for an interview or when you go to submit for a job, you can send someone to your portfolio. And the cool thing is your portfolio doesn't have to be perfect, nor does it. You know what? One thing that I think people get intimidated by, well, I don't have a portfolio because I haven't done work already. You can just create something. Like, you don't have to have had a job to have a portfolio. Like, if I were a photographer or a hairstylist or something, I would just go do someone's hair, go take some pictures, right? I don't have to have been hired to build that portfolio.
Absolutely. And actually, and I was saying earlier, I've helped over 500 people get into this career. None of them had experience prior to. All of them ended up with a portfolio, and all of them used that to get their job. So you 100% can create a portfolio without having experience. Absolutely possible.
And just to add on, you actually walk them through that. They have to create a portfolio as part of your course. Am I right? Yes. And they get it reviewed. Am I right?
Oh, lots of reviews. Oh, they, sometimes it's almost too much feedback. We're like, that's not going to your portfolio unless, you're going to make us look bad if you put something in there that's not going to get you hired, right? We're going to make sure what goes into your portfolio is going to get you a job and it's not wasted effort. That's really important.
That's a special level of mentorship and help. Okay. So that was the third one. Let's hit me with the fourth. What's number 4?
Okay. So number 4 is flexibility. So this is a big one. This is actually why I love this career more than anything.
Me too.
There's flexibility on a couple different fronts. Okay, one is we're all here to talk about remote work, right? So remote work is pretty much most of this field at this point is remote. There are a few instructional design jobs in the office, but not that many anymore.
But you're not applying for them. If you're watching my channel, you're not applying for those.
Yes, and you don't need to, because if you put remote in with instructional design on Indeed or LinkedIn, like, you have so many jobs to choose from that there's no reason to go anywhere else. So that's one thing, is you can work remotely. And, that way you have flexibility. We get a lot of teachers who come into this field that are used to, their kid has a doctor's appointment. There's no flexibility there. Right. They get sick. There's no flexibility there. They got to run an errand. They just want to run and get coffee. Nope, can't happen.
They do it.
You can do all of that. They're flexible sometimes on schedules in terms of what time you start. If you're not an early morning person, you could start a little later. And this depends on the job, but this is just what I've heard from a lot of people. And the jobs I had also when I was working full-time in instructional design, I started work at 9 a.m. every day when I had a full-time job. There was like no way, like I wasn't going to come in earlier than that. So that's one thing. The other piece of that is you can work full-time for a company. So you're getting benefits, you're getting, 401k, you're getting your health insurance, you're getting all those things, your vacation days, all of that stuff, still working remotely, still having a flexible schedule, still able to, run an errand and do whatever you need to do, but you have all those benefits. Or if you don't want to do that and you want to have more flexibility, you can do contract work. And so contracts are for shorter periods of time. They might be 3 months, they might be 6 months, they might be a year. And you can do them with full-time hours, or you can do part-time contracts. And I love to do part-time contracts, and I would stack them because part-time contracts are the most flexible. So if you think about, like, if they're trying to schedule a meeting with you on Thursday, if you have a full-time job, they're going to be like, okay, the meeting's on Thursday at 11, because what else are you doing? You're working for us 40 hours a week. If you're working a part-time contract, they're going to ask you, are you available Thursday at 11? And you can say no, and you don't have to give them a reason. So, but you can stack them and you can get multiple part-time contracts. So it feels like a full-time salary, or even full-time plus, even more than you would make. A lot of times more. I got way over, probably double what I was making as a full-time employee when I started stacking contracts, but nobody was in charge of my time. So I worked the amount of time I wanted to work. I was able to say yes or no. And then the other cool thing is you can change between them. So let's say you want to work full-time for like 3 years because you really need those benefits. And then you're like, you know what? Maybe you have kids or whatever, and you're like, I want to stay home with my kids when they're little, and I'm just going to work. I mean, you can say you're staying home anyway, but it's hard to watch kids when you're working full time. I'm just going to do part-time. So I can do more with my kids. I'm going to flip to that. You can flip-flop.
And you can change your mind at any time
too.
But you know what I think was really cool too is, so number one, flexibility is like my love language. Choices, flexibility, freedom. Like, I love for people to have options, right? So what I'm hearing is it's flexible in that you can do it multiple ways, W-2, contract, freelancer, or it's also flexible in that you can decide, well, I'm going to do this part-time, I'm going to do this full-time, I'm going to do this piece of time. What I love and how you kind of shown this, Jill, is you started working or stacking contracts to the point where you wouldn't work two or 3 months out of the year. Right? You were like, 2 or 3 months out of the year, I'm not working. I'm going to travel with my kid. And you and your son would like go around Southeast Asia for a few months or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, that level of flexibility and freedom is a serious lifestyle upgrade, lifestyle upgrade. Right?
Yeah. I quit in 2016. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not listening to anybody's 4 weeks of vacation telling me when I can take off. And I was like, nope, I'm done. And actually I had I met somebody at my mom's work when I was in middle school that worked, they were consultant. They worked 6 months a year and they traveled 6 months a year. And I was like, when I get grown at some point, that's what I'm going to do. It never left my mind. And in 2016, I was like, that's what we're doing. And this career allowed for that. And that's every summer up until COVID. And now again, this summer we did it, this past summer, we've been able to travel for a month, 2 months at a time. Sometimes I'll keep like a small contract and I'll just kind of like work in the evening after we've been sightseeing all day, or I just don't, and so you have that flexibility to be able to do that when you're doing contract work. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I used to love seeing your stories, like when you would travel and then come back home to like checks in your mailbox from your client.
Oh man. Yeah. There was one year, it was nuts. I was gone for probably 6 weeks. And that back then was when people don't mail out checks as much anymore, right? Most of it's direct deposit. Back then, my clients were still mailing checks, literally. So I opened up my mailbox and I had like $50,000-$60,000 worth of checks in my mailbox that had stacked, because I'd never stacked them before. I was take them out, deposit. Well, I was gone. And that was a cool summer.
Oh, trust me, because I remember. Distinctly remember that. Yes. So reason number 4 is flexibility. Flexibility is huge, and a lot of people want that in their lives. What's reason number 5?
So the 5th reason is, after all of this, you can make great money, right? Like sometimes people are like, there's a catch, right? Like I don't need a degree. Well, maybe that's something that's not going to make me a lot of money. All of these things, this is a legit career change, right? This is a career where there's a lot of opportunity. It's not kind of just finding your way and doing like a side hustle or things like that, although you can do it on the side.
Yeah.
But, so as far as just to give you an idea of starting salaries in this field, So again, depending on your full-time or contract, it varies. On the full-time side, people usually start between $75,000 and $85,000 a year. That is starting. I will tell you that because there's so much demand, I have people I've worked with. I've only been working with people now for 3 years. They've already been promoted. They're already on their second and third job only because it pays more, not because they didn't like the first one, because they're being recruited to make more money. Because the demand is so high, they're making a lot more than that now, but that's kind of what they started out as on the full-time side. And that is with your benefits, with your 401k, your health benefits, your vacation. And a lot of companies have bonuses, annual bonuses that are 10 to 15% of your salary. Not every company, but it depends. But a lot of them do. I had it for every company I worked at when I was working full time. Well, that's an addition. So think 10 to 15% of the 75 to 85, add that on.
Your so total compensation is just going up and up and up, right? From your
on the full time
bonus for your plus your benefits, your total compensation is really, really increasing. And when you think about people that transition into this position from other areas, and we harp on teachers again, people transition here from multiple careers, but
they do,
educators is a really great example because they have a very niche job, right? And a lot of teachers feel like they can't go do something else because they've been teaching. Additionally, a lot of teachers' salaries are in the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 range. So imagine going from making $40,000 as a teacher for 5 years to making $75,000 as an instructional designer in your first year. And then next thing you know, in 2 years, you're at $100,000. Right? Could you imagine? Can you imagine? I can.
Right.
Seen it. And we just did a live with someone who transitioned into instructional design through Jill's course, who used to be a teacher, who increased her salary to 6 figures as a result of going through this program.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the contract side, so if you want to go that way, and by the way, you can go into either one when you're new. So some people think I have to do one and then the other, or doesn't matter. You can go into either avenue from the beginning. But on the contract side, so what's really cool is when I started this 3 years ago, what I was telling people were the starting rates are not the starting rates anymore. Like that's like they've increased a lot because of the demand. So now you can starting out and you're not there long, you're usually around 40 to 45, even $50 per hour.
Wow.
So if you think about that, I mean, it's about double what it would be per year if you were doing that all year long.
But do the math. Let's do the math together. You said 45?
Yeah, I would say about 45.
45 times 2080, because that's how many hours full time in a year. That's 93. Now, you're going to give a disclaimer. I won't give it. You got this. That's 93 per year.
Yeah. So with contracts, on the contract side, you're paying your taxes, you pay a little bit more in taxes and you don't have the benefits. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're comparing the two. Any benefits that you want, you want to get health insurance, you're paying for it, all those kinds of things. So you have to weigh. But what I like about it is that it gives you flexibility. You know how like at a job, the benefits they give you are the benefits they give you. If you don't want that benefit, they're not like, hey, here's some money instead. No, you just don't use it. On the contract side, I don't care if you give me health insurance because I'm making more money and I can decide what health insurance I want. I'm not limited to your 5 plans. I can do what I want. I can invest in my retirement account if I want. I can do all these things if I want. And it's like, it's very different, right?
Yeah. It's also good for people that are married and that, maybe your spouse's benefits or your significant other or domestic partner's benefits are actually good enough or better than where you're working now. Then you can get on their benefits and bank all that money from your contract, right? I think it's a very viable option for a lot of people. And I know people get scared of the idea of having to pay for benefits on their own, but we live in a time now where there is a true marketplace for healthcare benefits, and they are far more affordable than they used to be a long time ago. And so, to your point, like you aren't limited to the benefits that your company offers that somebody that doesn't even know you went out and selected.
Right, exactly. We just went through this with my company, with my employees, and whether we were going to offer healthcare, like offer some plans or have reimbursement and have them go get their own. And I was comparing like, well, can they get better plans on their own than I can offer them? And we found out, yes, actually.
Wow.
And this is in like 7 different states or 8 different states. They actually, in pretty much every case, can get better than we can offer. And so we just do a reimbursement and they get their own plan because it's actually better. So yeah, there's a lot of options for that if that's the route you want to go. But if you're like, nope, not doing it, just get a full-time job. The other cool thing about the salary, this is something that nobody believes me until they get in this field. And it's funny because after they get their first job and they start to see it after a few months, they're like, you were right. And literally no one believes me. It moves quickly. Really, like your salary goes up, and especially on the contract side, it does go up on the full-time side, but it's not quite as quick. I mean, it's pretty steady. It's not any slower than anywhere else. The contract side, you move quickly. So I have people that started out at $45 an hour, maybe $40 an hour. They're now making $65 an hour in a few months. Like they haven't even been doing this a year.
Wow. And
they've already gone up like $20 an hour. Like what other field can you make that much of a jump in such a short period of time? It's crazy. I mean, I don't even understand it sometimes. I'm like, what is going on in this field?
You're blown away.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
I love it.
It's happening. It's happening, and it's happening a lot. It's not like it's just one person. It's happening a lot. And I think it's because the demand is so high.
Yeah.
And if you are prepared to enter this field, like you actually have the portfolio and all those kinds of things, they're like grabbing, like they're grabbing you like crazy. Yeah. And that's a really cool thing.
I think also for contracts, your experience stacks up faster, right?
It does. I think so.
You do one contract. When you start to go for the next contract, you've got one contract under your belt. When you go for the next one, you've got two under your belt. And so that experience starts to stack faster. And that's probably part of why the numbers are going up so much faster.
I think so. I remember when I was young and my mom was always like, this changing jobs all the time and moving around is going to catch up with you. And it caught up with me to the point where everyone's like, oh, you have so much experience in so many different industries and fields. And that's the thing with contract work. Like if you get a full-time job, you might be at that job for 5 years. You've got healthcare experience. But if you do contract, you're doing so many different things. That really helps you to where it's almost like an accelerator. Like you said, It just really, because you've done all these different things in a short period of time. Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it.
I love it. These are 5 really, really great reasons. I'm going to recap real fast. Number 1, you can do it in various industries. So it doesn't get boring. You can do it across multiple companies, multiple industries, which is really cool. Number 2, high demand and low, what did you say? High demand.
Low supply.
Low supply. I was about to say inventory. But
little economics 101.
We're not talking about houses. High demand, low inventory, which means you can get into this and get hired really quickly. I have an example. A young lady that did the live with me on IG last week. She said she started looking in March and she got her job by May. She was in a job by May, which is crazy, right? So again, high demand, low supply. The number 3 was you don't need a degree in this field. Number 4, flexibility. And number 5, high pay. Like, listen, these are all really great reasons. I think Jill and I would love to know which of the reasons you're most interested in. Drop that in the comments below. Tell us which of those 5 reasons are the ones that are like, if I got into ID, this would be the reason. In the meantime, Jill, tell us a little bit about your program. How's it set up, the 5-day Jumpstart? Like what can people expect from the 5-day Jumpstart that you host?
It is amazing in terms of preparing you for what you need to get into this field. Mm-hmm. So, it's like now you're thinking, well, what do I need to do, right? How do I get in? What is required? What is this portfolio thing you talked about? Like, how do I even do that? I don't know what I need, because I talked about the fact that you don't need a degree. You need something, right? Like you can't just go apply tomorrow. So that's what I'm talking about during the workshop. So we're actually going to go through, and a lot of you are going to realize you have skills that you bring to the table. You're going to see, oh, I know how to do that. Oh, I've done that before. And you're actually going to be surprised. You're also going to learn where your gaps are. So you're going to say, oh, okay, that's what I need to learn. Okay, that I need to do. Okay, here's what a portfolio looks like. We're going to see examples, different things like that. And so at the end of it, you're going to be really clear on what is required and what the work is that you have to put in order to get into this field, because a degree isn't required, right? And if you we're going to go and create your portfolio, what would that need to look like? Examples and all these different things. We're also going to interview people who have made the transition, that have come from different fields. So you get to see how long did it take them? What did they have to go through? All those kinds of things. What is the work like? Like, what is a day in the life of an instructional designer? We're going to talk about that as well. So there's a lot going on. It is 5 days. It's an hour each day.
Okay.
So if you can't join us live, we will have replays available. So don't worry. It takes place on Facebook, but if you're not on Facebook, we do have an option for people that aren't on Facebook. So go ahead and sign up anyways. If you're not on Facebook, and we'll still make sure that you get taken care of. But it's a lot of fun. We give away prizes, all kinds of stuff happens. It's fun.
Prizes? I want a prize. All right, so go ahead and join the 5-day free. It's free, correct?
It is free. It is free.
5-day free Jumpstart challenge. The cool thing about this, what I love about the fact that you do this for free, is that people get the opportunity to really just get an introduction into this, right? So you're showing them the tools, you're showing them what a person does in instructional design. You're showing them the people that are working in the field and letting them talk to people about, like, what does this field really like? And you get to make the decision, you know, do I want to move further and, you know, invest in the program and really learn this? Do I want to move into instructional design really? So I really love that there's like a free challenge for people to kind of come in, hang out, get familiar with it, and see if they are a fit before they commit. You know what I'm saying? So again, the link is in the description box. Jill, I really appreciate you doing this with me. I appreciate you stopping by to share the great news of instructional design. Actually, if you guys have more questions, Jill and I did a much longer video about this topic a few weeks ago, and I will put the link to that video below as well. We talked for a whole hour live, and we actually answered questions from the people that were watching. So if you want more info, you can join there as well, but make sure you go and sign up for the 5-day free Jumpstart challenge and get to know my friend
We'd love to have you join us. So even if you're like, I still don't understand what this thing is, but it sounds kind of interesting, just join us. It's free. You'll get a good idea, and you know, you never know.
You never know.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Olivia. It's good.
No problem. Thanks for stopping by, Jill. I really, really appreciate it. And guys, don't forget to like and share this video. And don't forget to drop a comment and let us know which of the 5 reasons is the biggest reason why you would be interested in instructional design. I'll see y'all in the next video.